Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome back here at Big O Belt Media. Your usual suspects, Lucas and Najir, here to give you that recap review of BMF Season 3, Episode 3, where this episode is titled Sanctuary. This episode is written by our homie, because we can say that now, Jasmine Darnell Brown, and directed by the shooter, Sierra Glade. Also the homie as well, too. But yeah, man, you know, our recording schedule has been a little out of whack, so we definitely are coming to you a little bit more current than normal here. But nonetheless, we're very excited to get back into the groove of things. But yeah, let's talk a little bit since the last time we got to kind of talk and update our audience with all things happening. We obviously been to the premiere. Y'all saw that interviews from the red carpet. Amazing time. Junket interviews are available now tonight, folks. You can check out the review, our interview with Meech, because I had to hold that review because I asked him about the appearance of young Tupac, so I couldn't spoil that for you all a couple of weeks ago. And then at the premiere, as usual, I know you all, and I hear some people say like, we don't want to talk about that. We wasn't there. We don't care.
We don't care about your hard work and what it leads to. We just want to hear about the recap of the episode. We understand.
If I told you we had a +1 for one of you all, yep. Well, what's up? Can I go?
Hey, exactly. Matter of fact, that's what we're gonna auction off. We're gonna get the STARZ and auction off next year. A +1 for a lucky
special
watcher
fan.
of one of these special fan to +1 with us to this event. So you get to do some BTS footage behind the scenes and get that.
Yeah, you coming, you working. Just all you gotta know. You coming, you working with us.
Yeah.
But now we had a good time, and I think where do I go? Let's talk about Jasmine for a little bit. I think it was very liberating on both ends. We always try to uplift the writers. We obviously know we just came from a writer's strike. We also know that the writer's strike, and consequently because of that, was really the catalyst to shows being canceled. I know there's a lot of celebrity behind the actors and even the directors, but like the writers are truly the heart of this show. So being able to meet Jasmine, he will be on here for an interview soon. We're working out the schedule, and he's bringing some ammunition with that. He says he's going to have some other folks that we may be interested in talking to, because that's the thing about these writers. They're not just writing because they're fans and they're just pulling stories from left and right. Like, they're doing research. They're figuring out other people, families that are involved with these stories, and doing that homework, and collecting that history to really bring the story to life. So like, I really cannot wait till we have him on the show to really pick his brain. So I'm telling you all right now, with that warning, if you got any questions about this episode in terms of where some of the story was coming from, I mean, listen, I did not know, and this is why I had to act Lil Meech. Big Meech and Tupac running into each other is a wild story. To I couldn't even imagine. Like, imagine just being in the same space as seeing two legends and them both having a conversation about like going to do bigger and better things, which obviously both of them left huge impacts on this earth. And not even just that, but Big Meech is coming home next year. It's about to be a wild ride for this BMF family. But anyway, going back to Jasmine, yeah, I can't wait for him to be here for an interview. So if y'all have questions, definitely let us know. What about you, man? What were some of the things that was exciting for you at the premiere, or anything that you kind of held close from it?
People noticing what we do. That's it. It still throws me off. I mean, Jasmine was one of them. He just came up to me and said, "Wait a minute. Aren't you the guy who does the reviews on?" I said, "Yeah." And then that's when he introduced himself and talked about this episode. But just in general, I mean, I'm still at times amazed that people watch what we do. It still throws me off. Like, so that into itself is enough for me. And just to be in a room with cool people. You see people with their heads down. Like, no one seems to be like stuck up. No one seems uncomfortable. Like, it's an environment where you get the creators from the show to even creatives from press, or just people in a room together and everyone feels comfortable with one another. Or down to this possibly being one of the best red carpet experiences that we had.
Yeah.
How can you go from interviewing on the red carpet a legend from South Central to one of the most beautiful actresses in the world on one of the most talented shows ever to an NFL quarterback all at the same time, and then still get the key characters of the show and get to talk to them and pique their brains. Mr. Remy Ransom, as I called him, Robin Hood of the Hood, on there, man.
He loved
Jason
that.
gave some of the best interviews humanly possible. I was listening to him giving interviews for other people, like, man, this like he takes this extremely seriously, and he's extremely grateful, and that's what you love to see, is just a bunch of Black folks getting together and everything be peaceful. Because boy, do we hit alternative a lot of times, but this was one of those experiences where everything was cool.
Yeah, and
nobody floated through like in prior after parties and stuff like that.
I definitely want to give a quick shout out to some of the folks there for that night, especially some of the folks that reached out that we didn't get a chance to talk to. And this is just a mix of everybody, but obviously the showrunner and Heather, you know, this really a lot of this doesn't happen with her, and with the special guest appearance of the creator Randy Huggins blessed us, which was just a very, very special moment to have him. One of the writers, Mike Wynn Lee, Rama Matanovi, who just was on last week for an interview, was cool chopping it up with her. We also was with Paulina Wynn from Power Book 3 Force. Yeah, so four Force. Yeah, four Force.
Four Force. Yes. Four Force. Who got me to eat hamburger donuts, which was the most fattening thing I have had in God knows how long. But she was like, "No, you're gonna have to. This is too good."
I ducked it. Shout out to 2 Chainz. We also funny interview with Funny Marco, pun intended, I guess. And just a bunch of other folks, man. It was a good time. So definitely step over, explore the channel because you're here on the channel. Check out those interviews, social media stuff, all that good stuff in case you haven't checked it out.
And then shout out to everybody else on the red carpet. That was dope. The crew were from I was about to say This Is 50, but it wasn't This Is 50. Damn it.
No.
It was Rock the Bells.
Yeah.
The Rock the Bells crew. They were dope. They was right beside us. Them, the Source was supposed to be there. They wasn't there.
They came.
Somebody else off of the carpet.
Oh. We gotta talk about the show now. Hey, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, man. Drama was there, but not with us. Oh, also shout out to my man Gianni coming through. Gave us the dope interview. Gianni, obviously from Power Book 2 Ghost, giving us a quick little scoop there, causing a little ruckus, but obviously bringing the energy. So yeah, all that is available on the channel. But yeah, I know you all hate us talking about the red carpet, but
hey, deal with it, damn it.
Got to. And
shout out Jordan, another member of Big Old Belt. We got to, because that's the man behind the scenes of them beautiful footage and photos you see. Kills it every time.
Yep. So yeah, listen, it's obviously an honor to be there and a lot of hard work in order for us to get to those points. But we got to give a shout out to the folks that make it happen, the folks that bring this show to life, the STARZ crew with the organization, everybody involved, making it a really dope night as we got to step into basically our mini version of Magic City besides the dancers, which the dancers were there. Maybe they kicked us out before
they were off duty. They had on the before performance apparel, and you saw it, and you like, okay, I wonder what's gonna happen here, because
they definitely bamboozled us on that. Somebody called the audible.
Women in Fear God sweats in my life. So clearly something's going on here.
They called an audible of some sorts there, but here nor there. Anyway, starting off the episode, we did get a disclaimer in the beginning of this episode warning us about for viewer discretion is advised because of the nature of sexual assault and suicide. So I instantly knew that this episode was going to be deep to one way or another, because I don't really recall that ever being a disclaimer in the beginning of an episode of Power or BMF. So just knew that this was going to be something kind of serious here. But anyway, we get in the beginning. We get Meech with Pops here, and Charles, basically just them connecting through music, and learning music and so on. I thought it's a very key point because they share that love and connection throughout this episode multiple times. And I think it is important to connect the dots here because, like, listen, Meech owned a music store and he always talks about wanting to do music. We know what he does in real life, but like the story hasn't really progressed towards that music avenue. And we be getting like little, like, tidbits of it, but this is really where he got it from. It's that with his dad, and thus with everything that them two have been through and everything that Meech actually needed for his dad in terms of securing the house. It is good to see that they do have that small little space of all the things that's happening around them for them to connect through music, and I think that was really dope. And a lot of families are like that, whether it's moms and sons and dad and sons and moms and daughters. I mean, you see that relationship in so many different avenues in Black Combs, just how important and almost to a point that how much of a safe space music is for family. So it was cool to see that in the beginning. But we do get Meech now walking up to a house only to find out that Stacks had been robbed. So, we're obviously going to see what happens a little bit later with that. But Platinum Palace, the place where where we got to have our premiere and after parties at, aka Magic City. And listen, like, let's just call it what it is. I've been to Magic City. Y'all can check out our interviews. We both got interviews available from the junket. You're not going to fool me, folks. I've been to Magic City. I know what Magic City looks like. They did say that they put together a set piece because obviously renting Magic City is just not going to happen because that's a lot of money that they're missing. But also, too, besides them just duplicating Magic City here, you're not going to name it Magic City because you're going to have to pay for Magic City.
City. Exactly.
if you've never been down to the A, Magic City Monday, some of the craziest times on the planet. I'm proud to say that I have partaked in that. I would never forget seeing Chris Johnson, the running back in the NFL from the Tennessee Titans. I never will forget the day him and Jeezy was in there together. And you know how people be talking about making it rain? These dudes were just throwing the whole stack. Wasn't even popping the bands. They were just throwing bricks out there. I was like, oh, that's the new level of stunting. Meanwhile,
that's why I don't do strip clubs. I ain't got time. I'm the nigga. I'm the guy at the bar at the strip club with the startenders. That's what they now call it. And I'm up there chatting her up. She may get $100 tip from me, but I ain't fit. I'm just not. You got to do some amazing. We'll talk about some of the shit that I saw amazing in the strip club. It wasn't in Magic City though. But I mean, you see a stripper drop from a 15-foot pole on beat to Meek's Dreams and Nightmares. It changes your life forever. It changes your life forever.
Oh man. But with that being said, we get this moment of Angel, who is just getting all of the heat right now. First of all, we gotta give credit where credit's due. Neo has really been acting his ass off thus far. I thought the Neo casting was going to be a cameo, but Greenie has been a fulfilling character this season. I definitely want to hear you all chime in on the comments about his work thus far. But he blames her for everything because the end of the day, he's all about his money. Angel is he's Angel's pimp. So like
she's his bottom bitch. That's the best way to put it.
That's his and why
that's his top earner.
Exactly. But even still, going back to Meech and Greenie is him recognizing that they're a good team. And was he talking about Meech here? They're making a good team because money's being happened here. But obviously, it's time now to take things to the next level, and that's where Jack the Rapper is introduced, and Trina the cousin Trina the cousin. Who I love is still making her presence relevant because it's like, let's not forget that she was the big introduction down into Atlanta in the first place. So her co-signing like this is a good move is only telling you that like something is to come. What was your thoughts about the name drop of Jack the Rapper here?
For people who don't know necessarily the history of not only hip hop but the history of music in the A, like Jack was extremely important to, even before he broke hip hop, he broke a lot of soul music for people back then. So just to bring up his weekend and what that represented to the hip hop community at that point, when he was one of the first DJs in Atlanta to fully embrace hip hop, to fully say, you know what, this is an art form that we have to pay attention to. So then when we get to see what they put together as this weekend, and the craziness they show is not remotely close to the craziness that it is for that weekend. But it was always organized craziness because it was, everybody felt like this was my chance. If I didn't get on any other time, I had to get on during this jump right here. Like, this was the point. This was the big meetup spot. So that's why I like that they use that. This would be the place to make the best deals at, because we must be able to be honest here. Like, all the dealers knew about this weekend. All the artists knew about this weekend. All the dealers who had artists knew about this weekend. Like, so everybody had to be there. You had to be there for that weekend, because this is a way where you can meet multiple people that you need to meet at one time and not necessarily have to worry about the cops. So I do like that they actually brought that up, like, hey, through the flyers. And he's like, man, keep my dad away from the flyers. He don't need to see that, because he understood that in a different time period, Jack meant something completely different to Charles than it did to Meech. And he didn't need him there to mess up a deal. When Meech knew, like, right now, my thought process is every drug dealer in the city is going to be here. This is the time for us to make our name known and to make deals and to make moves. And then you get Charles on the other hand, like, man, this represents a piece of my childhood of Atlanta, of the music scene, of everything that represented Black music for that time period. Like, this is a place you needed to be at. So it's always great when you get to have historical figures like Jack on this show that a lot of young folks don't know about. Like, that's the key part. I know a lot of y'all don't know, and it's perfectly fine. It ain't something where it's overall knowledge to a lot of people of just how important he was. But now with this episode, hopefully people be like, okay, I get to see why they call him the father of Black radio as a non-Black man.
Yeah. We're gonna have so much more on that. Again, Jasmine will be on the show. Jasmine's bringing in and going to allow us to really tap into that story of Jack. So definitely stay tuned for that. And one little correction here: Meech was the one blaming Angel about the robbery with Stacks and so on. So there's that. But then obviously
he thought she set her. He thought she set him up.
Yep.
Because he kept on saying, like, who else would know?
So we go back to the to T and the crew, and they're at the restaurants now. And they're just talking about updating the clients about everything that they got going on here. But Markeisha, man, she's back talking about I miss you.
I went to a house and you kicked me out 28 hours later saying, I don't think this is a good environment for us to be in. And then you called me a week later, talk about baby come home. If Markeisha ain't the weirdest old woman in the world, cougars are normally supposed to have their business together. I ain't supposed to go through this with no cougar. You're supposed to cook me some cornbread, some pot roast, because only cougars cook pot roast and greens, and let me be, and let me live in peace. But here you see still a conflict with Markeisha of dealing with Boone, dealing with the kids, trying to find out exactly what it is with Terry. While loving Terry, she just doesn't know how to deal with being in this situation with him. And as we said last episode, I want to say, we brought it up. She put him out talk about the kids, like they wasn't having sex with the kids in the same hotel room. You get this big house now is an issue. So it's weird, but I think this is just her way of trying to rekindle things with Terry. But I did love T's response was basically like, "Nah, I'm busy right now." Yeah. You gotta put, as men, know your worth, King. Put your foot down. Don't let her drag you along to make you think you're at her beck and call. The moment she offer you a little cookie, you go up there running. You better put your foot down and know your worth. And I love the way they show T there, because it shows him attempting to take control of a situation. As we already know, He is not good at taking control of other situations yet. But this is one where he knows I need to be the man in this situation.
Yeah. We get to the studio now, and this is where a couple of different things. Stats kind of laying down what happened with them being ambushed, and listen, they talking about they got to get this shit right. But more importantly, here in this scene, we get the first look of the highly publicized casting and now acting debut of Little Baby as the character Pain. I mean, thoughts? Thoughts and predictions, I think, is the best way here.
He said maybe 10 words in this whole episode. In all 10 words, he sounded like Lil Baby. So, no offense to Lil Baby. He makes amazing music for people. I am completely out of his age group. So when he raps, it sounds like I'm just hearing mumble stuff. Granted, lyrically, I know it's there because I can hear that part of it. Here, he sounds just like Lil Baby. Like, it threw me off a little bit. Oh, man, come in, man. Hey, man. Like, that's all I heard. And I was like, okay, he made his point. Like, again, I think I'm wondering, is this going to be, because we thought Neo with Greenie would be the more cameo character.
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to stretch out more? Or will this be the more cameo character? Because it's kind of dueling to have him and 2 Chainz in that same gang and them dueling against each other. Like, Chainz has been holding his own so far. Yeah. I'm wondering what they're going to do with Lil Baby, or is this just what we got with Lil Zane, where it's a quick introduction and maybe you get a bigger piece down the road or next season of this character to expand upon this character.
Yeah.
But right now, it just I just heard. Yeah.
You know, one thing we didn't announce last week, and obviously seeing her on the carpet, totally forgot to announce that. We talked about the character, obviously, but Cynthia Bailey as Gloria Bryant, Detective Bryant's. How do I say this nicely here? So, let me say this: Kevin's trash mother. Who
decided she got to be trash? She gave custody to her baby to his daddy because he's a boy, and you know, back in the 80s and 90s, women would just, you know, everybody remember Angela Bassett, Boys in the Hood. A boy gets to a certain age when you give him to his daddy. Okay, you need to raise him to be a man. I ain't gonna say she trash now because I don't know their situation. Maybe he hit that age and she like, I can't do no more. Yeah, you know, back in the day, that's what a lot of black mamas did. I can't do no more. Like, he needs to be with his daddy.
Yeah, and on paper too, he probably did have the better financial situation and security. And then, granted, you know, cops and or detectives aren't making a lot of money at this time, as we see with Detective Jen having to make a side hustle, and obviously Detective Brian can't even get a lawyer here. So, you know, could be something like that. But nonetheless, going through, they're talking about they need more manpower here, and that means they're going to Jack the Rapper. So everybody. So, you know, this is the thing is they want to make it very clear to everyone that they're not skipping a beat. You know, they're going to still be doing what they do, even though that they got. Stacks, on the other half, he's just never been alive with Meech. I think every time Meech makes a call, he questions it. He questions about the product. He questions about, you know, him being able to like pull these moves off. Every single time he gets a chance to just be dismissive, even to the point where, you know, everybody, since they got hit and, you know, they breaking everybody down with the money, he still was like, I'm not taking a handout here. So I think there's pride. I can't be mad at that. I do like that if you're going to have somebody such as 2 Chainz there, that this character shouldn't just be a character fall in line. I mean, if that's the case, then you just say he's Lil Zane. Just another stooge, you know, loyal stooge, one way or another.
2 Chainz like, man, I ain't put on this wig for y'all just to make me fall in line. You better give me some meat to my roll. Yeah, and that's what they've done here, and that's why I do like so far the character of Stacks, because you clearly sense there's something behind his actions, even if it's not being revealed yet exactly what they are. And so I can't say they're bad intentions, because you guys still remember, like, you know, Young Miami is technically his niece. So he's looking out for kids and stuff, and he still feels a certain type of way that Meech didn't step up immediately to help her. So maybe that's what's going through him when Meech is going around trying to make sure, like, look, we got hit, but I'm making sure everybody's still eating. And he's like, nah, I'm not taking no handout from you.
Yeah.
And him possibly thinking, like, when you had the opportunity to give the handout to somebody, you didn't. I'm not taking yours right now.
And they also haven't really went full tilt in it, but like he's giving OG vibes, you know? When you were the man, you know, you never want to be lesser than that. And I think you go back to even season 1 with Wood Harris's character, where it's just like, you know, you can put these young cats on, but you never try to take a seat behind them. And Pat was the character name. Yeah, and I think that's sort of where we kind of getting with 2 Chainz' character Stacks here. Is just like, sure, he's about making the money, but like at the end of the day, he doesn't seem to be one that's just going to fall in line, step off of his throne. I thought it was funny too that Meech started talking about HOAs. God, man, we haven't come far at all with society, have we? HOAs was a problem then, still a problem now.
I don't have those issues.
Yeah, must be nice to have a single family, sir.
I live in the old established neighborhood with a lot of non-me people, so HOAs don't exist where I'm. HOAs, hey, I'm like the Jeffersons, Joe. I came a long way from 640 to get where I'm at now. So yes, we don't have HOAs here.
So they're back at the restaurant now. This is T and his crew, and they're talking about everyone's loyalty to Meech, and because T style hasn't been proven yet, and they're questioning now, where's the product? Because you know, folks are here questioning. We got options. We got options. We out, and they need to know Henry's every move, because that's the other issue too, as well, is that you got another figure on the field. So, you know, everyone wants to find out here. Everybody's there. Is he called for everybody to come through so everybody know where the product's at? And much like everybody should, it's like if you're not going to be dependable, then we will mess with Henry. So T is still trying to prove his sort of leadership on his side of things in Detroit. And I think it's an interesting arc because while we even see that Meech is really running things down Atlanta right now and T is still trying to come in his own, I think we're going to see more and more how the two of them need each other. And that we haven't quite seen from Meech's side yet. But we see T, he just doesn't have the reputation and he doesn't have the dependability right now that's going to convince these other folks that they need to stay down with him. So he's doing a lot of PR work, a lot of sidebar.
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah,
he's hustling as much as humanly possible to show that he can control stuff without Meech.
Yeah,
and just reassure soldiers, like, you know, we got stuff coming in. We understand the situation that they're in here with the connect, but it's still his job as the leader to reassure everybody. The same way we saw literally before that Meech did. When Meech gave away money to everybody just to prove, like, nah, I still need you to ride with me. And that's what T has to struggle with. But his other burden is that people trusted Meech more than they trusted him to begin with. So he was already behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
And Henrietta ain't no joke. So it's making it even worse for him.
Man, I just want to keep talking about the red carpet, man, because and truly and want to make sure we properly in terms of pronouns, speaking about the character Henry, but also ultimately talk about Ren, whose pronoun is they, them. Ren, for their first red carpet, showed up and showed out. And I just gotta say, I'm talking about it because I know the internet is going all crazy, and even little Duval making, I feel, very ignorant voiceovers about Henry's
leave that alone. The character, the but you with him, you gotta realize though, when he says it, you gotta see.
I know he's a comedian. I know he's a comedian, and
not with him just being a comedian. Lil Duval's sister is gay, so when he says that, he calls his sister that. For him, that is way more of a term of endearment than it is just a slight to the character. So like he says that about his sister all the time. But he'll tell you in a heartbeat, if you mess with his sister in any way, it hurts you. And he got the utmost respect for her and her lifestyle. It's just his wording. He likes the word the BD word, not
Yeah.
the one that y'all may think of, nasties, but the other BD word that I don't know if I get canceled for saying it, so I'm just
Don't.
not gonna say it. So he uses that term, but he doesn't use it in a disrespectful sense. Instead of him saying a gay lesbian sex scene, he uses that term instead.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
mean,
following well enough to know like it's not. He has no issues at all with that. With that
okay,
community,
cool.
his wording is crazy.
I'm glad you're here to
Yeah,
correct. I mean, this is why we do what we do here. Yeah, because when I first heard it, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So glad to just clear that.
yeah,
Nonetheless, though, I just want to make sure that like, as much as I really, really bought into Henry's introduction this
mhm,
season, seeing Ren on the carpet felt just as impactful. All
yeah,
red and just like made a statement. And again, for they being their first red carpet, I
mhm.
mean, come on now. But I'm really buying into the performance, really buying into the character. But I got to tell you now, I am really, really, really ready to see a lot more of Henry and Detective Bryant.
Yeah.
The banter between the two of them, I think, is really going to make for some really good television. Listen, Steve is one of the best actors of all
Mhm.
time. Does not get enough respect for
Yeah.
his body of work and just his ability to work through generations, work with
Mhm.
so many different characters, and really still really what's the word I'm looking for? Transform into these characters where you do not see other characters he's played within them. The fact that we get this now scene with Henry and Detective Brian, and he's talking about I'm here for my son's protection,
Yep.
and with that, you know, it's like okay, cool. We need you to protect the shipment. And even with them talking about the plan and him having his knowledge about the cops and how he's saying, you
Mhm.
know, there's some vehicles that cops just don't fuck with. Seeing how much he knows about the police inside makes sense, but how he knows to
Yeah.
intertwine that into the business and truly willing to volunteer this information like seamlessly. There's no hesitation. Like this is what you need to do because you see how motivated he is to get the money in order to get a proper lawyer in order to get his son's protection. I know I hyped this up. What was your thoughts about the Henry and Detective Brian beginning conversations about this assignment now that the two of them are going to be working on?
I liked it because you understood from the beginning that Henry never wanted this and is uncomfortable with this. She lets it be known, like Bryant lets it be known. Basically, he got here because of her father. And she's doing this because of her father. Because if it was up to her, she would never team with him. So it's a certain amount of distrust already between them two. And I like the point that it's not the fake, oh, we're just going to get along. I'm going to act like this is my idea for him to be here. Nah, Henry let you know from the beginning. It wasn't my idea, but for you to stay here, you got to prove yourself to me. And that's what we needed to see because Henry has been such a forceful character from the beginning that we needed not to have her uh whimper is a good word for me right here. Whimper in the background to her dad here. Instead, she stood 10 toes down. Like, no, this wasn't my idea. This was my father's idea. You're in here because of him, but I still have to trust you, or this still isn't going to work. So we get to see at that point, and later on in this episode, after the events that happened, we get to see it play out even more. But this first introduction was very important to show for Henry as the boss. So it's not a situation where Detective Brian comes in thinking your father runs everything, so I don't necessarily have to listen to you. Here, Henry establishes from the jump, you either do this my way or this ain't gonna work at all. I don't I don't care who told you that this could work out in your favor. If I don't like you, if I don't trust you, it ain't gonna work. So that's why I love this introduction because it's Henry putting her foot down against Detective Brian, who we know if you don't, he will run all over you.
Yeah, yeah. And you say that with warning, but I definitely foresee that becoming an element of this sort of business relationship in the future. But we'll
Yep.
see. Um, We got my man Pops down in the A. I gotta tell you, with everything that Charles has been dealing with in Detroit, Lucille not trying to throw it at him. She's not even trying to let my man sleep. I mean, he was on the couch. He did get promoted to the kids' room.
He's
Yeah.
ex bedroom.
So, like, listen, this is a little bit of a getaway for him. And I do love how this is really depicted, really in like the sub writing of everything, because he looks happy. He's like, man, I'm away from this shit. I'm in the A. And thinking like later on this episode, knowing that this not only was going to be a trip for him to see his son, he gets to come back to the A. And then he comes on a big weekend. This is checking all the boxes for my man. He probably even think he's gonna slide into something real quick. Look, Charles ain't no fool.
Better for Charles would have been Freaknet. Freaknet. That's the only weekend would have been better for him. He like, but nah, I can deal with family affair weekend down here and get it on. So yeah, like it really fit. I love the way when he first comes into the house, the musical portions brought up about the studio there. And just how intrigued he is with that, because again, that's him and Meech's connection, his music.
Yeah. Yep.
And just to highlight that from the beginning, when the moment he gets down there, and Meech understand, like, one, I'm happy he's down here, but I need him to do something. Two, I need to distract him. What better way to distract him but talk about the equipment in the studio and how everything works?
Yeah. So they got rid of the drug dealing house to present a studio to them, because they're not supposed to be aware of all of the reasons why it's very obvious what's happening in here. But yeah, he is blinded by the only thing that really would blind him besides Lucille is music. So like, he's happy there. He's with Duffy there in the studio, and Pops looks like he's ready to get back in the session. So like, man, listen, Charles been taking L's for about a season and a half now. I'm happy for this win for him. My man finally looking like he's gonna be able to do something that's gonna stir him on the right path.
It ain't been no season and a half now. He was just fucking Mabel like 6 episodes ago. Charles
fair.
Charles ain't been taking L's that long now. You can't take an L with Mabel now. That's impossible. So he just been struggling up late. Lucille ain't trying to give him none.
I
put him in a different bedroom.
I miss Christine. If you're watching this, we miss you. Definitely a face I wish we could have ran into, but she's forever getting booked. So we'll run into her soon. You don't gotta worry about that.
Clearly, don't worry about it. Christine's gonna be on the next season of Power. We already know it. We speaking into existence. She's gonna end up on something.
That would be something. That would be something.
So pull off the Snowfall BMF Power triangle. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. We're at the new Cornerstone Church, and I mean, listen, man, Estelle here, out here talking about the church is a good place to meet single men, and Maurice and Lucille. Listen, man, these church folk. This whole thing ain't nothing but drama.
They ain't never made sweet potato sound so nasty before. When they peeling sweet potatoes. Oh man. Hey, but this is, again, it's a real scene with real life, as this is a friend. Like, you need to get over him. What about that doctor? What you gonna do with that? Girl, I'd like to jump on that. All that stuff. It felt so genuine, their conversation, because you understood in this moment, this is not only just a friend for Lucille, this is someone she can confide in and let her know, like, this is something I'm thinking of. This is something I'm thinking about. And she needs that release, because if you talk about someone who's been taking an L for a year and a half, it's Lucille who's been taking that L for that long. It ain't Charles. It's Lucille. And we're finally getting to see her in a position where that shouldn't be the case anymore. And this scene is just the catalyst to everything else that happens in the episode.
All I'm saying is, both of them church folk, they need to make sure they tied extra heavy this Sunday, because the devil was present in that conversation. That's all I'm gonna say there. The lust for single men and Jesus home.
That's what the church is known for.
You're supposed to be going there for the Lord, and they going there playing with eggplants and whatever it was that in there. Just
Look here, it is for the Lord, and to find whatever blessing the Lord is going to lead you to while you are there. And that's all Lucille is doing. The Lord done took a cheater out of her life and delivered her a good man with a good job.
Yeah.
Charles ain't been able to rub two nickels together. Lucille done got her a doctor all of a sudden. Cliff Huxtable. Lucille got her Cliff Huxtable. She trying to get out that Wendy's uniform. She's sick of it. She's sick of it. If she got to make one of you niggas another McDouble or whatever the fuck they make it Wendy's, she gonna lose her mind.
Moving to the next scene though, we got T and the crew. They're just working out their plans and what their next steps is going to be. But we do get the detectives here, and the detectives, doing a little bit of recon, taking photos here. Not quite sure who just yet, but at the same time too, they are getting to know each other. And this is where conversations do get deep. And whether this was part of the disclaimer at the beginning of the episode, but this is conversations about ODing. We hear finally Detective Jen talk about her sister being beat to death. It's just a lot between the two of them. What I think, without going into too much detail about specifically what was said, it's just really the idea, and this is obviously one of my favorite interviews during the junket, was that it's seeing two characters on paper who are very much different. One's from privilege, one is, more come from a background of survival and happen to really be the supplier for the family. They're both women of color and in a profession that is the odds is against them, and to the point that it even makes them uneasy with each other when they technically should have already just been on the same page. But I love that they're having a conversation, they're ironing through it, and like we're really kind of dropping a lot of the stereotypical norms with these characters and really revealing who they really are. What did you think about? And then you obviously had a chance to talk to them too. We did our interview separate, so if y'all just wondering why I'm talking the way I'm talking, we just to give more time for us and content for you all, so we did them separate. What was your thoughts about understanding that they were partners now this season, but like really seeing them do the job, but obviously getting personal about their lives and their backgrounds and history?
Welcome to the difference when it's two cops of the same sex who aren't attracted to one another. Because this is what we missed from Jen and Brian getting close together, because eventually it led to too much sexual tension. Here, it's just leading to real conversation, real discussion about things. And the point that Jen never fully opened up this way last season, it took this new partner for her to open up to in this way. And it's because the new partner's also being vulnerable with her. So I love the way that they're bouncing it off of one another in this scene, but not only this scene, so far this season. Like, these are again, you say two detectives from two completely different parts of the world, meaning like different scopes of worldview. But these are also two who understand, like, as women, we're a rare commodity. We're going to be disrespected the same way. No matter if you're coming from privilege, and I had to pull myself up, for lack of a better term, which I hate this term, if I had to pull myself up from my bootstrap with my family versus me thinking that you had every door open for you. Plus, it's amazing to have a Black female detective who it is looked upon as having all the doors open for her because of her family ties. That's also a beautiful thing to see here, because, as Black people, we deserve that. We deserve that type of privilege from time to time. But here between them two, that's not their discussion. Their discussion is more real life issues of what shaped them as detectives. And that's the important part here, because again, we didn't see this that much. We saw it from Detective Bryant, and we fully understood his relationship with his son, and technically with the streets is kind of what shaped him. But we never got that with Jen until this season. Now we're seeing it back to the conversation with her father at the restaurant, and now this conversation in the car. It's amazing how all these little pieces are coming together to give us a better picture of her through this new partner. And again, it comes because there's no sexual tension between them two. There's no underhandedness yet between these two. These are just two people being genuinely honest with each other about their feelings, about their emotions, and about how that's helping them out or hurting them in the job right now.
Yeah. This next scene now, we got Meech and Pops at the crib now, and this is a very important milestone in the legal case against BMF. That's how I would put this. Because and you know, if you watch the BMF documentary, I don't think they talked about this, but I know they highlighted Charles's like fate with everything, his involvement with the organization. But I mean, y'all can read between the lines here. It's a conversation about how they're going to purchase this house that he needs. And he needs this house because obviously with everything that's happening, this is a safety measure. And it's entirely true. It was a right call here, especially when you're not in your hometown. You know what I mean? But listen, Meech has no legit income, so he needs his father to sign off on him. And his father's like, well, my funds ain't right, but he's like, don't even worry about that because I got all the documents all fabricated and so on for you. So this is just all illegal. Charles knows it's illegal and so on. Here's what's interesting to me. Is this now that I think about this, before I was even going to say, is this the first time that Meech needed T? T owns a restaurant. He has the music store.
No, because technically, because in the end, it's Meech's income is not enough on the record store to make this transaction, and T's wouldn't be enough on the restaurant to make the transaction because he just bought into the restaurant. So what you need to do is what they did here, which again, back in the days, I'm just gonna say this, and this is not disparaging to my black folks out there.
You talking about how all of us have houses?
No.
Or had houses or mortgages, shall I say?
No. How all of us have had one time or another, someone had to doctor a pay stub or something of that nature.
Not
because we couldn't afford something now, because that's different. It's different between being able to afford something and somebody feeling they need records to prove you can afford it. So that was more important to me. He understood, like, my dad, no one's going to question the older black man, but they damn sure going to question the younger one.
Yeah. Well, you know, like I said, if you know here, so just remember this is a very important moment in the BMF legal case in the future. But anyway, we get the ambulance here, and with the ambulance, it gets wild. This is a scene I just was not expecting.
Did you say that word right?
Ambulance.
Don't worry about it. You said it like I say it, and I know I'm always told I say it wrong. So I paid a lot of attention when you say ambulance. And I said, that's not the word. That's the first time I've literally heard it.
They always be talking about in the comments, I say things wrong, so I don't care.
Yeah, look, I leave it alone. It's certain words I know I can't say. An ambulance is one.
Ambulance. There we go. Ambulance. We get the ambulance scene. we get the ambulance scene because, you know, this is what Detective Bryant say is the vehicle that kind of goes under the radar with the feds. But I didn't think he was going to be up in it, only to the point that the driver is shot, the ambulance crash, and this is wild. And we all know that this is all happening because, well, we knew that T and them were trying to track down. All that was going to go down there. With this all happening at the same time, that Jen is keeping an eye on everything. Jen and Amberson. So this happens. Bullets are flying. The cops get out. Jen is shot, and my jaw dropped because I swear to God, if they kill off Kelly Hugh, I'm not watching this anymore. I'm just not. Listen, like, the only problem with this whole scene is that I needed Michael Bay to get in there and do some things.
And like from the movie Ambulance, I know I'm not saying that word right. Screw y'all, because I already know y'all gonna comment on it. I say ambulance because that's what it is to me.
Oh wait, and before everything's done, hold on. Before I give it to you, Jen seeing Brian with the execution shot. There's a lot that I just don't even know the two of them are even thinking or saying whatever. But what did you think at that moment that Brian and Jen saw each other. Brian obviously in an ambulance uniform. Jen is shot on the ground. He doesn't even help her. He goes back and
he technically does by killing Lagoon. He helped her by killing the guy.
True. But I mean, she still has a gunshot wound. What are you making of this thing? What is your assessment?
She had a vest on, didn't she?
She's still shot.
That's why. Yeah, but that's why I think he didn't really go back. But I think this was she didn't say anything to him.
No. She's bleeding. She's bleeding.
Well, okay, it's a shoulder wound though.
Yeah, shoulder wound. Yeah.
Unless you're in a Fast and Furious movie and you're white and you're not Vin Diesel, you're not down from a shoulder shot.
All right, chill. No Fast and Furious slander here. The big thing is that's his partner, and he looks and kind of looks like, what are you doing here? More in disgust, but she's also looking like, what are you doing here?
And that's why he that's why the only help he could provide to her was executing the guy who did it. Because he can't stop and say, I'm gonna help you, and I'm in this uniform that goddamn well I got no right to be in, and you're seeing me do this. So it was a situation where she understood he's doing something for Kevin. He's got to be doing something dirty he has no business doing. And because matter of fact, yes, because they knew what it was possibly was in the ambulance was going to be something dirty. So she knows he's doing something illegal. He knows he's doing something illegal. He's just not going to let this other guy kill her. So instead, he executes him. So that's not an issue for her anymore. But at that point, I don't think it's necessarily where he was just leaving her thinking, I don't care about your well-being as much as I can't care about your well-being here. You know the situation I'm in. Like, they're not kids here. Like, she's very much aware that if he's here, he's doing something he has absolutely no business doing. And if he gets caught doing it, it's going to be worse off for Kevin.
And listen, I mean, we can connect the dots, but her getting those extra bricks.
Hey, I don't know what Jen doing with the bricks now. I thought it was to help Kevin. Now I don't know.
It could be. We don't know just yet. It could be, but we just don't know just yet. We'll have to see that kind of come to fruition. But that would be an interesting development if they both have a conversation of like, we were doing what we had to do for the sake of Kevin. And they're both having a measure of guilt. And let's not forget that, like,
Maybe doing it for her father's restaurant.
I mean, either way, I think it will be a conversation. It will be a conversation that we doing what we have to do. We're not being paid enough. We're undervalued at that too. Let's not forget that, like, she just got thrown to doing like the C team list of duties.
You took this profession. Cops saying you don't become a police officer to be rich, unless you're like Benson and Stabler. But I don't think they were even paid that much money. So you don't become a cop to be rich here. You chose this profession. And it's meager salary with bullets flying over your head. So you got to do what you got to do.
Even still, with them being a big part of them bringing out K9, and now they're just on the C team. Like, hey, I know y'all brought in K9, but go talk to Markeisha. Like, I think there's a measure of resentment to authority here with their superiors because of how they're being treated, but also I think there is a level of love and responsibility that they feel towards Kevin being and where he's at. So I think they're both getting into a place of just doing desperate things for the sake of looking for a better outcome. And I think her father's restaurant could be a part of this as well too.
Yeah.
But I think what's going to be interesting is the conversation that the two of them have in terms of recognizing the things that they put on the line in order to do what they had to do for the outcomes that they desire. But more importantly here, the next scene, Henry, is just, first of all, hold on. Brian drive this ambulance out that ran into unless it's Fast and the Furious, no one is driving a crash car without it being completely beyond repair and they happen to just get around.
Ambulances could take a lot of punishment though. Ambulance would take a lot of punishment.
Not in Fast and Furious.
Well, that's because Fast and Furious isn't real. That's why we use the example of what happens.
No, that's not true.
But I've seen 911 enough to know ambulances can go through everything. Okay.
You know what else? You know what else can go through everything? Family.
Except for the little white boy in Fast and Furious 1 who got shot in his shoulder, and Vin Diesel looked at him and said, "Oh, he's dead."
Jesse,
like what?
Dog, goodbye. So we get back, and Henry is pissed because of a few things. One, because it didn't go down the way it was supposed to, And when she looks for Twan, who's her cousin, and you know, one thing that's important to Henry is family. It's family. Only to and there's a lot to make with this scene because Detective Bryant was the one that took the execution shot. First off, Detective Bryant looks her in the face, has no jitters. I mean, straight poker face at this rate. I mean, he doesn't look suspicious at all, which tells you, and I mean, and Henry's intimidating. Like, you gotta call it what it is. And the fact that Henry's busting off bullets, I mean, a little bit reckless here, but like, you know, out of anger. But Detective Bryant, not even at all fazed by this. But you know, Henry makes it very clear Twan was family, and now the target is on BMF, and they need to know when and where. And she wants to know, or they want to know everything about T. So the war is ramping up. Let's just move through a couple of other scenes real quick. Here's a interesting one. Child Protective Services. Didn't think they would be making a cameo in this. And Child Protective Services is there because they're looking for Terry Flenory. Well, they got a call about
the baby not being in a safe environment.
Yeah.
Because I know they thought Markeisha called, which we already knew that was never the case at all. Who called?
Let's talk about that.
Definitive answer.
Let's talk about that.
Really, try to play the services.
Really quickly, LaWanda blows off because she thinks it's Markeisha. I think the audience first initial thoughts is Markeisha. I did not think it was Markeisha.
No.
I think Terry, even playing both sides of the fence here, realizes that she's a mother. A mother would never call another mother. I mean, it's a certain, you have to be a certain low life type of woman, mother, to call another mother.
Child Protective Services on Penny's mother, and Penny's mother burned her with an iron. Like, you know how far you got to go in a black neighborhood to call Child Protective Services on a mother? So no, that wasn't it. I just couldn't figure out if it was a setup from the cops, or maybe Boone or one of his folks were trying to set T up.
Y'all let us know at this point in the episode here, and I'm like, let's just make it very clear. This Child Protective Services visit is going all the way to the judge, and they're letting them know there's an investigation, and you know, they find anything that they're taking the baby away. The mother coming to the door, ratchet as hell with her
cigarettes.
What she smoking? What you think? What she smoking at that time?
Virginia Slims. You already know it's the 80s. They all black women smoked Virginia Slims in the 80s. They didn't move to Newports until the 90s.
I thought it might be a Marlboro.
Virginia Slims.
Okay.
Ain't no damn Marlboros, Joe. Unless she's a cowboy, it's not a Marlboro.
Y'all let us know who y'all think made this call here. I really do not know. I don't think it's Markeisha, and I don't think it would have been a male to take that route. I just don't know. Lucille wouldn't go that route, and it's I don't know. Unless it's been brought to their attention. Maybe the feds called them. You know, maybe they're trying to put some pressure on T. You know, could it be Jen and them? Could it be Bryant and them? You know, it's got to be somewhere on that authority. But I don't know. But I mean, this was wild. This is definitely a wild moment here. But we go back to ATL, and there's where it all starts to go down here. The Jack the Rapper party. Everybody's showing up. We got some, you know, obviously the players is there. The family affair event. The players is there. Hot 97 even got a little booth there. I don't know if anybody saw that. But what was really cool about this is them splicing in some of the stock footage from back then, and give you a brief history. Again, we'll definitely dive into this a lot more. But much like you said in the beginning, the who's who of hip hop and R&B and just black culture across the board was here. So, you know, Atlanta just has so much history. And yes, I know the Freaknik documentary, we already got a chance to check it out. So you all will be seeing that soon. So you had that, the documentary. You obviously got the parts of it on the show. We obviously been highlighting just the staple of Atlanta within the culture within Atlanta within the strip clubs, and now you're just seeing more and more and more. And I mean, there's still so much about Atlanta, way even to current right now that could be talked about, but. That's why Atlanta's the black capital of the world, and with those stock footage, it seemed like people like Will Smith in there, and just everybody was in there.
Everybody for anybody to deal with black music and hip hop went to Family Affair weekend with Jack the Rapper. Like, everybody went there for that. Like, that's all forms of music,
and that hotel is still there. Like, that's the really eerie thing about it is that hotel, I had a family reunion at that hotel maybe about right before the pandemic. And it's just knowing just the history of that hotel and it still being there and just the things that even happened on in this episode just showed you just how important it is. But yeah, everybody's in the building, props in there doing their thing. And just is just another staple of history. I know you talked about it earlier, so we won't just dive into it too much more. We definitely got, again, I can't emphasize enough, we definitely got more discussions on that. Markeisha, because this is Markeisha's house, and she talks about busting in my house. I just maybe I don't get this. Like,
well, you know why you don't get this? Because you've never had a woman tell you before for something you paid 100% for. Don't you bust into my house. See, you got to understand. Back in the day, women, certain things come with privilege. You know, if you told a woman I'm buying your house, that immediately becomes her house. Even if she never pays another cent on that house, that's her house. So Markeisha wanted to let me, don't you come busting in my house this way. And T understood. He obliged by her saying that. Granted, any sane person would have been like, you don't pay shit in this is my house. If you don't like it, you get out. But again, this is just a setup to make sure that Markeisha wasn't the one who called Child Protective Services, and for them to rekindle after everything that happened in the prior episode between them two. Because in the end, they still love each other. And she used the line too. She used that famous Keke Palmer line, "I'm a mother." Yeah. Why would I do this? Like, there's no way I would call Child Protective Services on another mother. Like, you're saying that I understand what this leads to. I understand what putting black families in a system, what that can lead to. So again, like, we brought up before. We just need to know who called them. But here's just them rekindling love. I don't think it's much to talk about here besides, as you brought up, Markeisha telling Terry to get out of her house.
Yeah,
which was amazing.
It just all this was rekindling. After her, she just completely just disrespected him by saying my house. But okay, nonetheless, we go back to the Family Affair event. Now, I didn't watch these scenes as deep as I could have, but the understanding that, like, they're showing these specific groups for reasons, and obviously with them alluding to Uncle Luke being there, because why wouldn't they? But there's definitely other groups there that I think they're trying to point towards too, like the female group. I'm sure you in the comments, y'all can just let us know, be a part of the conversation. Who do you think they were referring to on that? And then obviously Jay put
rap group.
Yeah, somebody. Either way, I don't know. Let's just keep going. Okay, I don't want to.
That'd be too.
In Atlanta, could be Atlanta.
So
yeah, but y'all let us know who y'all think some of the other,
JJ Fat,
all the other folks that they are basically playing characters of. And then we talked about the St. Louis expansion here, because you do get Jay Pusher here, and got his little brother and so on. So, understanding that Meech, this conversation is by way, and maybe this pays dividends somewhere down the line. Yes, there is a particular element of them being in St. Louis, and maybe this is the catalyst to that. But ultimately, this is definitely Meech's. This is like the introductory conversation to Meech thinking about expanding even more and how the highways will come into play. But Lucille on a date, because she's just wrong. She's just wrong here. She know. She is still a married woman.
Doing she out here. History Month. You see how you go? Lucille's the problem. Doing Women's History Month now. Lucille's the problem here.
Now I love it. Listen, I
and everything they can move.
I love it for Lucille and Maurice here. But them even having their cute little reminiscing moment. And there's one thing that Lucille's always gonna be sweet to. Somebody out here giving a generous donation to that church there.
To the church. To the
And
church.
listen, my only problem with this is that what you gonna put that in the new church? You were under Pastor Swift all these years, and now you get this nice generous donation. You gonna go to this new church. You ain't been there for no longer than 5 minutes.
Pastor Swift made her go Dutch on a date. She ain't giving him shit. He done messed up. Pastor Swift done messed up. When he said, nah, bring 2 separate checks. That was it for Pastor Swift.
Yeah.
Lucille ain't paying him no more attention after that. But again, this is just a nice scene between them to show she's moving forward. She's feeling more vulnerable and more comfortable with the idea of no longer being with Charles. Yeah. And I think it's a good thing that she's rekindling with someone she knows, because it's a certain amount of comfort that's there for a person like Lucille. And then my man dropped a huge check out. I wasn't expecting as big as a check as he gave, because damn. But this is like money. Yeah, like what the fuck? He got to be a plastic surgeon, because doctors ain't out this joint making that much money now. I know doctors out this joint struggling to pay bills in DC. This man dropped 10 bands that quick for Lucille in the church fund. Man, that's a hell of a bake sale.
All right. So Charles meets this guy with Colonial Records, and talking about maybe we should have a fellowship here. And it looks like that Charles has started to really get that fire lit about getting back into the music full time. I'm going to say that I'll leave it for right now because I want to keep going. But I did thought, because the person that he was talking to was getting so much focal time, and this conversation was deep, and how personable and almost targeted he went to Charles. At one point, I was like, okay, and listen. One thing about Black people, you just not going to be able to predict age. As much as you running around telling your age all night at the premiere, no one would have ever guessed it, sir. He was just guess how old I am, everybody.
And I did not say guess how old I am.
Yes, you did.
Someone literally, no, I didn't. One, if you under the age of 30 and you're attempting to have a conversation with me, and you're a young woman, I'm gonna have to let you know, because I'm ill. That's nasty. So certain point in time, you gotta let them know, like, hey, I'm a little too old for you. That's it. Yeah. That's it.
But the point of the matter is, it was hard to tell if the person he was talking to, if they're in the same age group. So to me, it's like, are they kind of reminiscing because they're kind of talking the same language? They're coming from the same era, because that was sort of helping me navigate what was really happening here. But I felt good for Charles. But it was the young chick that he was next to that was just like, yeah, I'm not kind of feeling her. She seems a little suspicious. A lot of little funny looks.
So you didn't think the dude was suspicious?
Not just yet. Oh. I had my antennas up a little bit, but I wasn't totally sure, because it just was like, he seems like he's targeting him, but could he be targeting him because they are speaking the same language? He's like, put it this way: if there's a bunch of young cats here, but you saw somebody that's like, yeah, that's somebody that's probably from my neck of the woods, y'all started to vibe in a different light. You know what I mean? I thought that maybe that's what it was. Maybe it's just kind of like, oh yeah, this somebody cut from the same cloth. I run this. I see that your music stuff. Let's chop it up. You know what I mean? Very harmless there, but like, man, whether you all was able to pick this on or not, what is to come of this? I thought was just this is very exciting. But before we get to that, we get my absolute favorite moment of the entire episode, and that's the Meech and Tupac connection here, and even Tupac talking about the Cali Kush. But whether I mean, come on now, you knew the bandana, you already knew what time it was. But like, yeah, I'm talking about hip hop and drug dealing, and that being basically in the same world. I mean, this was, to me, this tells me a lot. This tells me, and you tell me what you thought of this. Is it safe to say that Tupac was a catalyst to really pushing Meech to where he actually, in terms of him establishing BMF, to the point that he kind of almost gave a blessing in the sense of like, you can do both under that same umbrella. You don't just have to sell drugs. You can actually do music and do this at the same time. And maybe it wasn't just him, because I think Greenie has a lot to do. And I know Greenie's probably a composite of some other character, But more times than enough, Meech is being told that you don't just have to sell drugs. You can do other things. And whether it was by Greeny's way of saying, like, listen, you know, people who got like athletes got a certain color with their money, and rappers got a certain color with their money. And yes, you may have money too, but like you're respected in different lights depending on whatever you kind of into. I'm thinking like a lot of this was a lot of the catalyst to why BMF was. Let's just call it what it is. Them being involved with music is just hella strange. It just wasn't. It didn't seem a part of a normal recipe.
Not necessarily, because technically back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, most people who were in the drug game were also in the music game. They kind of funded some of the biggest. No. They kind of funded some of the biggest artists out there, and they were funded through drug money. And you could start naming big artists. I'm not going to do that. Back in soul music era, you start naming big artists, you're going to notice that they were funded by drug money.
I think I get that. I just mean like they didn't go from funding artists. They wanted to become a label. Like BMF was just like bringing you the new rapper, Blue Da Vinci.
I mean, technically, going from an East Coast perspective, that's Rockefeller Records. It was funded by drug money. I mean, every label we know of was funded in a way. Death Row Records was funded. Ruthless Records was funded by drug money.
True.
Like Easy wasn't out this jump. Like,
true.
So even if Tupac gives the idea to Meech that you can do both, it's not necessarily a new idea, because at this point, Ruthless and Death Row already exist, and both of them were funded off of drug and gang money.
Yeah. So if I take that to you bring good points. So if I take what you said and kind of like bring that into perspective here, that basically saying like Tupac's like, yeah, I exist in this life. You can do it too, per se.
Yeah, because I mean, we now understand for sure. I think most people through history understand that Tupac was not involved in that life. That was not what Tupac was about. He was no one's drug dealer. He had Thug Life tattooed on his chest, but for what the depiction of what people see as a thug, that was never Tupac.
Yeah.
So, but he was involved with people who were in the life for that reason. And he's basically saying, I see it happening every day.
Yeah.
Like, we understand even some artists that you wouldn't know or you wouldn't think about being involved in one game and transitioning from that game to music. It happens so often then. So maybe this was just the idea of telling Meech, like, hey, if this is something you like, why not do both? Eventually, because eventually you're gonna have to get out of the drug game. No one lasts forever there.
Yeah.
So, but if you're looking for an avenue out and this is something that interests you, why not? Don't limit yourself.
Yeah.
Thinking that you only have to be a drug dealer. No one only has to be a drug dealer. You make that decision on your own if you don't want to advance past that.
So real quick, definitely want to get to the rest of the episode. Have you ever heard of a story of them ever having a conversation? I feel like this is the first time ever, and
absolutely not. But here's the thing: BMF started so young, and it could have been chances for like those encounters to happen for sure. But I don't think they would have been publicized because, at this point, Tupac is mainly on the West Coast. We understand that around this time period, he couldn't really come on the East Coast anymore. And Atlanta was like that middle ground that a lot of people could go to and feel safe. But that don't mean it led to a lot of conversations and discussions that a lot of people know about.
I think even to that acknowledgement too, like Tupac had been on the swivel, kind of looking at who looking at him, and Meech looking at who looking at him, was definitely a moment of situational awareness because they're both in uncharted territories.
What year are we supposed to be in with Tupac here?
I ain't naming years because you know what happens when you name the wrong year.
I think this is around Strictly for My Niggas. So this is because Tupac Lives Now is the first CD. So this had to be around Strictly for My Niggas. So this had to be around like early before like 90, 91, somewhere in that area, I'm assuming. So yeah, around this time, his head's not on the swivel at this point. No one's looking for him that much.
But
because
even
he's not
still,
necessarily West Coast. Matter of fact, yes, they brought it up. He was there with the Digital Underground.
yeah. I
Because
mean,
that
but
was
even
his
still,
first connection to music.
even in the scene, he's kind of just looking around because people mean mugging, and any of these settings, things could pop up at any given time. So, either way, dope moment. Definitely can't wait to hear when Big Meech come out to really talk about that, because I think that's like a very special moment in time, and two legends chopping it up, and
Meech ain't gonna
just
give y'all too much information now. Some of that information can't be talked about.
do that.
He probably like, no, I didn't meet to. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Just in case something else goes behind. He ain't out here like Cameron. Like Cameron tell you every bad story in the world with hip hop, but everybody like, nah, man, we're not talking about that. No. You don't hear too many conversations or meetings actually, or you don't. In prior interviews that Meech has given, you notice he's never really talked about too much about him meeting other high profile people. And he met everybody, and we know he met everybody. He does not talk about it that often. You have other people who talk about the things that Meech did, but you don't hear Meech saying much about it. And that's just a code to go to. He probably feels like, man, I'm me. I don't need to talk about this stuff. I understand people want to know about it, and it's cool for the show to be able to voice some of those depictions of some of the things that he went through, but I don't think he's going to give you elaborate details about it. He's probably going to say, let the show speak for it. If you don't believe it's real, that's fine. If you do, that's fine. I'm just never going to confirm it, if it is or if it isn't. They damn near put it at the beginning of the episode. Like, it's made up, it's fiction. Some of the stuff is shit, but some of the shit actually happened. So it could be one of the things where it's not a conversation you want to have happen or talk about, because we see how this episode ended.
Right.
And then at that point, there's a lot of criminal activity that happened by the end of this episode.
All right, so T and Hoop, they had the best run, and only finding out that the cops was in on that, and Cuts had got, and even giving acknowledgement to Henry being a gangster, and they just respected Henry's move with everything. But Meech now, so we got we got some moments happening here. First of all, Charles is happy. He's having a good time. He's getting his vibes in. But with Charles, Meech is peeping and talk about, what he's seeing over before I name drop this person. He's talking about, that's that Haitian Miami killer voodoo shit. He's peeping the scene, picking up on people's jewelry and all sorts of different things. But he sees this necklace and realizes, like, oh, who is this? And only to find out is Glock. And Glock with talking about he's his own security, and because a homeboy from the club and whatnot. So you putting the pieces all together here. And me, like, first of all, Charles not picking it up. Charles is in good vibes, but Glock and Meech instantly confrontation with one another. And even with Meech talking about he got his own security, and he even talking about and Glock talking about he owns the pimp that he cleans his money, talking about Greenie. But after that, man, blows get to going, and Meech is letting the things fly, Pop's getting it in, and then the Red Dogs come in the building, and things are just that's about it. When the Red Dogs come, that's the end of the party. But it started to pop off, and it's good to see it's good to see Pops being able to throw hands there. But anyway, T and Markeisha housewarming gift, which is the orchid which he brought to her at her job that time, and he's back with her, playing both sides, and there they go. Anyway, somebody's at the door, and it is Lucille, and she says, I need to talk to my son. And that's when he's getting the news, talking. She says she talks to LaWanda, learning about CPS, and telling T he needs to get it together, fast tracking getting it together. He said he needs to get it together, and that's why he said he fast tracked getting his own place. And even her detailing that what CPS does. They have a track record for ruining Black families, so he's sitting here trying to be cute and being with Markeisha, realizing that like
he's trying to establish his own family.
Yeah,
you want to burden him with them. She just need to get them kids up to T and just give it them. Just give them up to T. Markeisha should be a better mother anyway. That's what it looks like.
Meech and Pop's driving home, and they just talking, making sure everything good. And even having the conversations about the history of family affair. And then Meech even having that moment about being the first Flenory to control his own destiny. He just needs his dad to sign off on that place, and ask him please. But they get to the house though, and talk about, listen, this now gives him everything he needs, and Meech being happy, ensuring that he's going to take care of mom and him and mom just like he did. So for him, there's that. So the house is done. They got the house, and they're having a good moment, father-son moment and whatnot. Now, Henry here with another red bone, which is interesting because Henry does love a nice red bone, it seems, after having Peaches last episode and killing Peaches because of the connect issues that they had. And even with that too, we see that homeboy over there is just basically getting it in with the white girl, and I definitely mean the drug here. But I think what's important here is Henry is so distracted about losing her cousin and whatnot, and ensuring she's going to make sure that everyone, she's going to make it right for everyone who's responsible for Twan's death, but also even at the same time making sure that her other folk in the room is being pleased. And I thought it was funny because while this new Peaches replacement is trying to throw it at Henry and talk about how she only likes women and kind of dismissive to Henry's first suggestion, she pulls out the knife and says, "Nah, get on your knees, go handle that." So, it's an interesting dynamic, but I also still think that Henry has a type here, so I expect more red bones down the line if you ask me. But back at Platinum Palace here, this is where we now come back full circle to the Angel and Meech scene. And I'm sorry, that's not what happened here. I'm forgetting scenes all crossed up. We come back to Platinum Palace, and this is where we have the Greenie and Meech scene. And I don't know, man. I'm just wild about Neo's performance because I didn't think that Neo will be getting down and dirty at all in this season. But getting there, and Meech is first of all, it's a couple of different things. Greenie is just laying it out on Angel, obviously not happy about her, and with him, basically disrespecting her, no regard for her. Letting them know you ain't shit without me. But one thing about me, she's a feminist, man. He gonna stand up for his women, and Greenie can say all he wants about how he runs the show, and you ain't shit without him. But Meech comes through, beats Meech down, him and Duffy, and even to a point that he realized that Meech, Greenie was the one that set him up, double crossed him, and said you're gonna pay for all this, because as we find out, Glock has basically, as he said, he owns Greenie. But Lucille is home. Charles is back, and Charles now in good spirits, talking about something. I couldn't stay away for long. And Lucille lets him know about CPS. So in true mother and grandma fashion, she's affected by this, even with her having her good moments and everything's happening. She realizes like how detrimental this could be to the family. Brian goes to see Kevin, and Kevin, I think we're slowly but surely starting to see the transformation of Kevin.
There you go.
It's not, this time in is not doing him any well here. But we do got Meech and Angel talk about having a new crib, and now he empowers her. And with that though, she never felt like she had worth. And the fact that Meech is being able to come in and give her like, to uplift her and give her a different perspective about everything, that brings them close, like I said, one thing about Meech, man, he's gonna take care of his women. But she feels safe for maybe the first time ever, because even the moment of them just kind of laying on the couch and everything, I thought that it was just showing you just how relieved she was to not be under that situation,
My man
under
that took
Greenie
out the
anymore.
strip club.
Yeah, got her out the strip club. I mean, you can't. I don't think you can make her. Never mind. We'll just move without that.
You can say it. You can say it.
Nah.
It's a rule. It's a rule that most people say all the time. It's not true in any way, shape, form, or fashion. You can clearly tell because all hoes ain't always a hoe. You could be an ex-hoe.
I ain't said she was, but she's a dancer and she has a different lifestyle that may not be suitable for one to settle down. I don't know, but whatever. All I'm gonna say is that this is a different dynamic for her, and Meech also making it very clear that Greenie ain't anything without her. So yeah. Last scene of the episode here is and Meech also talk about there not being any he doesn't have any security unless he's in jail. There's no good not rest unless he was in a jail cell. So a little bit of Meech also being aware of like how important the house is for security and whatnot, but also being able to kind of have that moment to kind of decompress with Angel. But last scene we get Brian after he's leaving to go see Kevin, runs into T. And he says, listen, man, you must be real desperate rolling around with Henry. And he's like, you know what? You might as well be rolling with us. I think we can help each other. And then, Brian has never lost sight of the issue here and says, y'all are my problem. So, and even with that being said, T fires back and says, listen, get on board and either get on board or get ran the fuck over. And Brian in his fighting back says that I choose to get ran over. So, we always going to have that moment of tension between the two of them. We all know how that plays out too, because they definitely showed us numerous times, especially the beginning of last season and the beginning when they're older. So, no love lost between them, even with them even having a moment of possibly being able to reconcile and help each other out and so on. But it's never ever going to be that way for Brian. Brian's going to make sure he takes T down by any means necessary. For you, is there anything else with this episode to cover? Anything I missed? Anything you want to talk about? Any other good comments from you, sir?
Quick, just about Charles quickly finding that check from the doctor, because that's how we find out that the doctor gave Lucille $10,000 to give to the church, and we see Charles' face when he sees his wife going around with a $10,000 check. He's gonna wonder where that's coming from. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a lot of episode 4 of that discussion on where this money came from, who is this doctor, and how that's going to go. Greenie, as he got his ass whooped and everything else, he was still giving Troy from Waiting to Exhale level vest energy, basically saying, you raggedy bitch, as he was laying on the ground. That's funny because I like to see where that's going to take Greenie next, because clearly his character's not gone. And he was very much vowing, I'm going to get my revenge on all you. And I'm wondering if this is going to change him into a different type of monster that he's always been. But now, now he no longer has to hide his connection with Glock. I wonder what that's going to bring next. Like those are the key things for me of what's going to happen in the next episode. And to see what's going on next with Glock. I mean, I know you were shocked. I knew from the beginning it was him because of the accent.
Yeah,
he was talking to Charles, and they did a beautiful job. It's sometimes we talked about it a lot last season with Raising Kanan. Sometimes you can shoot things, and it could give away if a person's accustomed to that genre of film. It felt like a horror movie shot because they only did Glock to the neck up, and then you heard him speak, and that's the way you normally do Cape Fear. All these movies with the killer in it, and you don't want to reveal the face. You show as close or as much up as you can, and you just hear them speak. And at that point, I said, oh, that's Glock.
Yeah.
And he's purposely getting close to Charles because Charles tells him who he is almost immediately. He gives him the last name. That's all he needed was the last name, because everyone knew Meech's last name. So once he had the last name, he knew who he was. So I'm more interested to see where we're going to go now with Glock. So those are the things I'm interested in at the close of this episode.
Yeah. All right, well, that'll wrap it up for this week's episode. I'll make it short and sweet. We'll be back Next week, episode 4, recap review immediately after the episode airs. Get in the comments, let us know your thoughts about tonight's episode, anything we missed, and so on. Go to the channel. You are on the channel. Look around for all the other interviews and content from this season. A lot more to come. But until next week, you all be safe. Thank y'all for tuning in for this one, and see y'all back then.